first to log wood, dress wood and build houses. They were a massive firm.
Wow.
Then they moved up to Australia. So many different things.
That's the present.
Welcome to Clan Gunn Lands and to the Clan Gunn Heritage Centre at Laveran. The old parish church was given to the Clan Gunn Society in 1974 and provides an appropriate focal point for the clan from all over the world, as many of our ancestors worshipped here over a period of 250 years. The church was built in 1734 near the site of an older church which was built in the 5th century by St. Ninian, who is reputed to have brought his disciples to Caithness at that time. Our ancestors lived around this area, and because the church is on low-lying ground, the bell was in the tower that you can see on the hill behind. But it is silent today because the bell was brought into the church when the new aisle and the belfry were added in 1822.
Clan Gunn is a Norse clan, and it claims descent from its name father, a man called Gunni. He was the grandson of a very famous Viking called Sven Asleifsson, and he himself was the hero of the Orkney-Inga saga. So famous were his exploits, and so far afield did he journey, that when he died, it was said of him that, apart from those of higher rank than himself, he was the greatest man the Western world has ever seen, in ancient and in modern times. Gunni, or Gunny, married Ranhild, the granddaughter of Earl Ronald, later Saint Ronald, of Orkney. It was he who built St. Magnus Cathedral in Kirkwall in honour of his uncle, St. Magnus the Martyr. So, through Ranhild, the Gunns are also descended from the Norse earls, or jarls, of Orkney. Through her father, Ranhild was also a descendant of Modern of Dale. He was Mormaer, or High Steward of Caithness, so through him the Gunns are also descended from the ancient Celtic rulers of Caithness. Sven Asleifsson had property on the island of Guernsey off Orkney. He also held lands at Fressick on the northeast shore of Caithness. Gunni, or Gunny, and Ranhild had a son called Snæhol, which literally means snowy head, so he was obviously very blonde. On the death of his uncle, he claimed half the Norse earldom of Orkney. This was disputed by his cousin, and as a result, Snæhol killed him in 1231. Snæhol went to Norway to plead his case before the King of Norway, who ruled over Orkney at the time, but on the way he unwisely got involved in an unsuccessful rebellion against the king and lost all chance of getting his Orkney inheritance. From that time, therefore, the Gunns became essentially a Caithness family. Eventually, at a time when the influence of Norway was waning and the power of the Scottish king was growing, the clan seems to have possessed almost the whole of Caithness. It's thought that Snæhol built Castle Gunn at Bruin on the east coast of Caithness. At the end of the 14th century, there's some evidence to suggest that in 1398, the chief of the clan, Sir James Gunn, went with his cousin Henry Sinclair, Earl of Orkney, on his expedition to the New World. This is said to have taken place over 90 years before Columbus discovered America. A plaster cast, which is in the clan centre, was taken from an effigy of a medieval knight in armour, which is engraved on a rock face at Westford, Massachusetts. The figure bears a shield which appears to carry the Gunn arms, and suggests that it commemorates Sir James, who probably died while on this expedition. At this time, too, the Scottish kings were anxious to increase their influence over the fringes of their kingdom, and granted land to their supporters from the lowlands of Scotland, the Sinclairs, the Keiths, and others. The Gunns were steadily dispossessed of their fertile lands in Caithness, and by the mid-15th century they'd been pushed seawards to Ulster and Clyth, where the chief of Clan Gunn held his main lands. This chief was known as the Crowner, being the man responsible for collecting taxes for the crown. He had his main seat at Hallbury, a mile south of Castle Gunn, but alas, nothing remains of this now.
Land skirmishes with the Keiths had become a serious feud, and it was agreed in the middle of the 16th century that there should be a parley at the Chapel of St. Tares near Ackable Tower, which was then owned by the Keiths. But the treacherous Keiths brought 2 men to each horse, overcame the Gunns and killed the crowner. The story goes, however, that one of his sons escaped the battle and killed the Keith chieftain as he drank to the victory in his castle at Derlet near Westerdale.
With the death of the crowner at Achigill, the clan split into 3 main branches, each following one of the chief's sons. James, the eldest, settled in Kildonnan in Sutherland and held lands there until the end of the 18th century. Robert, the second son of the crowner, settled in Braymore and founded the Robson or Caithness Guns. The third son, John, settled in Cattig in Strathmore, up the Thurso River near Westerdale. The clan system is tribal in structure, and the power of the chief depended on how many men he could supply for battle. But unlike the feudal system in other countries, a Scottish chief was considered to be the father of his clan, and all the clansmen were regarded as being related by blood, even though this wasn't necessarily the case. The Battle of Culloden in 1746 effectively put an end to the clan system. Acts of Parliament took away privilege and power from the chiefs and forbade the carrying of arms or the wearing of Highland dress. There were no more private armies, and those chiefs whose lands hadn't been confiscated by Parliament started looking for other ways to make their land pay. One answer was the introduction of Cheviot sheep to the north of Scotland. As a venture, this was so successful that many Highland lairds followed suit, and the land was cleared of people to make way for this lucrative new trade. Because of the clearances, in the first few years of the 19th century, many thousands of clansmen were swept off the land they'd occupied for generations. The people of Kildonnan, Strathalladale and Strathneva were offered alternative employment in the expanding fishing industry off the coasts of Caithness and Sutherland, but most of them had never even seen the sea, let alone worked on it, and consequently many emigrated to the New World. In fact, in 1813, 100 people from Kildonnan set sail for Winnipeg by way of Hudson's Bay on a ship called the Prince of Wales. It's fair to say, though, that emigration had started before the 19th century clearances. Sir William Gunn, for example, had served as a mercenary soldier under King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden and the Holy Roman Empire, and settled abroad at a much earlier date. Many Highlanders also served in the Scots Brigade in the Netherlands in the 18th century, just as at the same time Scots were serving in the British Army in America, Canada, and the old British Empire. Thousands of people left the Highlands to settle in America and Canada before the American War of Independence. And through the 19th and early 20th centuries, emigration continued to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States of America, where many people prospered and where the spirit of clan kinship is kept very much alive. There are over 70 sept or branch names connected with Clan Gunn, and if you'd like to find out about them, just go to the desk in this centre and ask. As for the chiefship, well, it's been dormant for 200 years. In 1972, my husband Ian was appointed commander of Clan Gunn by the Lord Lion, King of Arms. This was because the arms-bearing and landed members of the clan decided that the clan needed a family head. The commander holds office until such time as a chief is found.
The original Loyal and Benevolent Society for the Clan Gunn was set up in Thurso in 1821. A second society was formed in 1890, and the present society was established in Edinburgh in 1960. The ideals are to promote a spirit of kinship amongst members of the clan throughout the world. From it have stemmed affiliated clan societies in North America, Nova Scotia and New Zealand, and there are moves to establish a Clan Gunn society in Australia. The clan meets in Caithness every 3 years at its triennial international gathering, when people come from all over the world to visit the lands of their origin. I hope that while you're here, you will have time to visit some of the sites associated with the clan. There is a booklet at the desk and a video which tells you about some of these places. We very much hope that you will enjoy your visit to Caithness and the land of Clan Gunn.
In July 2015, after a family convention in Orkney, the Lord Lion King of Arms recognised Ian Gunn of Banniskirk as Ian Gunn of Gunn, chief of the clan and name of Gunn.